Before we dive into this story, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. And don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10 at the end. Now, let's begin. The rain hammers against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse office, each drop exploding like tiny bullets against the glass. Elena Martinez stands at those windows, her reflection ghostly in the storm-dark afternoon, and she doesn't recognize the woman staring back. 3 years have carved hollows beneath her cheekbones, painted shadows under her eyes that no amount of concealer can hide. Her dark hair, once glossy and carefully styled, hangs in a simple ponytail. The designer clothes she used to wear have been replaced by sensible black pants and a white blouse, the uniform of someone who works for a living now. Someone who has learned that pride is a luxury she can no longer afford. Her hand rests on the slight swell of her belly, a habit she developed during her pregnancy and never quite abandoned, even though her son is now 2.5 years old. Somewhere 20 floors below, in the daycare center of this corporate building, little Mateo is probably demanding more goldfish crackers from Miss Sarah, his dark eyes flashing with the same stubbornness his father once showed, that same stubbornness that destroyed their marriage. Elena closes her eyes against the memory. 3 years since she walked out of the mansion in the hills with nothing but a suitcase and the secret growing in her womb. 3 years since she signed the divorce papers with trembling hands, her lawyer's pen scratching across expensive paper while her soon-to-be ex-husband didn't even bother to attend. He'd sent his attorney, a cold-eyed man in a perfect suit, who'd slid the settlement check across the table like it was payment for services rendered. She'd torn it up. The only thing she'd taken from the marriage was her freedom, and the child Damian Castellano didn't know existed. She'd made sure of that. Carefully, meticulously sure. The intercom on her desk buzzes, jolting her from the past. Elena turns from the window, smoothing her blouse, forcing her face into professional neutrality. She's gotten good at that over the past 3 years, at becoming invisible, at blending into the background of ordinary life. "Ms. Martinez, Mr. Chen would like to see you in his office." The receptionist's voice is apologetic. Elena's boss rarely calls people to his office unless there's a problem, and Elena has been meticulous about avoiding problems. She needs this job. The salary isn't extravagant, but it's enough to cover the modest apartment in Queens, Mateo's daycare, the student loan payments she's been chipping away at since finishing her accounting degree, the degree she'd started in secret during her marriage, in those long hours when Damian was handling business she wasn't allowed to ask about. "I'll be right there," Elena replies, her voice steady, even as her heart begins to race. She walks through the maze of cubicles, aware of eyes following her. She's never quite fit in here, despite 3 years of trying. There's something about her that marks her as different, as other. Maybe it's the way she holds herself, spine too straight, chin too high, old habits from a life where posture mattered, where appearance was armor. Or maybe it's the faint trace of an accent she's never quite shed, the musical lilt of her native Columbia, mixing with the sharp edges of New York English. Mr. Chen's office is all glass and chrome, modern and impersonal. He sits behind his desk, a slight man with wire-rimmed glasses and the perpetually worried expression of someone who's climbed the corporate ladder by never making waves. Today, that worry has deepened into something approaching fear. "Elena, please sit." He gestures to the chair across from him, and she notices his hand is shaking slightly. She sits, folding her hands in her lap, waiting. Whatever this is, she'll handle it. She survived worse than losing a job. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." Mr. Chen removes his glasses, polishes them with a handkerchief, a nervous gesture she's seen before. "Your maiden name, before you married, what was it?" The question catches her off guard. "Martinez." Why? And you were married to a man named Castellano. Damian Castellano? The name lands like a punch to her sternum. For 3 years, she's avoided saying it, avoided thinking it. She's been Martinez again, only Martinez, the name on her paychecks and her apartment lease and Mateo's birth certificate. Not Mrs. Castellano, not the naive young woman who'd married New York's most dangerous man without understanding what that meant. Yes, the word comes out hoarse. She clears her throat. I was. We've been divorced for 3 years. It has nothing to do with my work here. Mr. Biantpo Chen replaces his glasses, and she sees something like pity in his eyes. Elena, 3 men came to see me this morning. They were very polite, very professional. They wanted to know about you, your employment history, your performance, your hours, whether you have family, whether you're in any kind of trouble. Elena's blood turns to ice in her veins. What did you tell them? The truth. That you're one of my best employees, that you're never late, that you keep to yourself. They seemed particularly interested in whether you had any children. He pauses, studying her face. Do you? The lie comes automatically, honed by 3 years of practice. No. But something in her expression must betray her, because Mr. Chen's frown deepens. Elena, I don't know what kind of situation you're in, but those men, they weren't from any legitimate company. They had a quality about them. He searches for the word. Dangerous. I've worked in this city long enough to recognize certain types. I understand. Elena stands, her legs somehow steady despite the terror coursing through her. If they come back, you don't know anything about me. I was just an employee. Average. Forgettable. Elena, he starts, but she's already moving toward the door. Thank you for the warning, Mr. Chen. She makes it back to her cubicle on autopilot. Her hands shake as she logs out of her computer, grabs her purse from the locked drawer. Damian's men have found her. After 3 years of careful anonymity, of using her maiden name, and paying in cash whenever possible, of avoiding social media and old friends, somehow, they've found her. The question is why. Why now? She forces herself to walk normally to the elevator, to smile at the security guard in the lobby, to exit onto the rainy street like this is just another day. Only when she's 2 blocks away does she break into a run, her sensible flat splashing through puddles, her heart hammering against her ribs. The daycare center is in a different building, deliberately chosen for exactly this scenario. She'd planned for this possibility from the moment she'd discovered she was pregnant, had mapped out escape routes and emergency contacts and backup plans. She bursts through the doors, rain-soaked and breathless, and the woman at the front desk looks up in alarm. I need to pick up Mateo, now. Elena's aware that she sounds frantic, that she's drawing attention, but she can't help it. Ms. Martinez, is everything okay? Miss Sarah appears from the playroom, concern creasing her kind face. Behind her, Elena can see Mateo building a tower of blocks, his small hands steady, his dark hair falling across his forehead exactly the way his father's used to. Family emergency. I need to take him now. It takes 15 agonizing minutes to gather Mateo's things, to sign him out, to bundle him into his rain jacket. He chatters happily, oblivious to her terror, telling her about the picture he painted and the song they learned, and how Jackson pushed him. But he didn't push back, because pushing is not nice. That's right, baby, Elena murmurs, taking his small hand in hers. You're such a good boy. They take 3 different subway lines, doubling back twice, before Elena feels safe enough to head toward their apartment. She watches every face in the subway car, looking for the telltale signs of surveillance, but everyone seems absorbed in their phones, or their books, or their own private misery. Their apartment building is a 5-story walk-up, in a neighborhood that's not quite gentrified, where the bodega on the corner sells everything from milk to lottery tickets, and nobody asks too many questions. Elena's lived here for 2 years, ever since Mateo was old enough that she needed more space than the tiny studio she'd first rented. She unlocks 3 separate locks on their door, ushers Mateo inside, then locks them all again. The apartment is small but tidy, 1 bedroom that Mateo has, and a living room where Elena sleeps on a pull-out couch. She's painted the walls herself in cheerful yellows and blues, hung curtains she'd sewn by hand. Created a home from almost nothing. Now she might have to leave it all behind. "Mama, I'm hungry." Mateo tugs on her hand, his upturned face so trusting, so innocent. "Let me make you something, sweetheart." She moves to the tiny kitchen, her hands automatic as she assembles a grilled cheese sandwich, her mind racing. She has money saved, enough for maybe 2 months if she's careful. She has the emergency bag she's kept packed since Mateo was born, tucked in the back of her closet with changes of clothes and copies of important documents. She has contacts, people who might help her disappear again, though she'd hoped never to need them. What she doesn't have is a plan for keeping a toddler quiet and cooperative during a midnight escape, or for explaining to Mateo why they're leaving the only home he's ever known. The grilled cheese is browning when she hears it, a sound so soft she almost misses it beneath the sizzle of butter, the sound of footsteps in the hallway outside, stopping at her door. Elena's hand moves to the knife block on the counter. She's never been violent, never wanted to be, but for her son, she would do anything, be anything. The knock, when it comes, is gentle, almost polite. "Elena." The voice through the door makes her knees buckle, deep and smooth and achingly familiar, even after 3 years. "I know you're in there. I just want to talk." Damien. Here, at her door. Mateo looks up from where he's coloring at the tiny dining table, his dark eyes curious. "Mama, who is that?" And in that moment, Elena knows with crystal clarity that her carefully constructed life is about to shatter. Because the man on the other side of that door doesn't know about the child watching her with his eyes, doesn't know that he has a son, and when he finds out, he'll never let them go. She'd left him to save herself. Now she might have to face him to save Mateo. Her hand tightens on the knife handle as she moves toward the door, her heart pounding so hard she thinks it might burst through her chest. 3 years of running, of hiding, of building a new life from ashes, and it all comes down to this moment. "Elena," Damien's voice comes again, softer now, almost pleading. "Please, I need to talk to you. It's important." Important. Everything was always important to Damien. Important business, important meetings, important calls that he had to take no matter the hour. So important that he'd missed their first anniversary dinner, their second, the night she'd tried to tell him she wanted to go back to school. So important that he'd become a stranger sleeping in her bed, a ghost haunting the rooms of their mansion, until she couldn't remember why she'd loved him in the first place. She reaches for the lock, her fingers trembling, then stops. "Send your men away first." A pause. Then, "How did you know I had men with me?" "Because you're you, Damien. You never go anywhere without security." It's one of the things that had suffocated her during their marriage, the constant presence of guards and drivers and people whose job was to watch, to report, to control. Another pause, longer this time. She imagines him weighing his options, calculating risk versus reward the way he does with everything. Finally, she hears him speak to someone else. His voice muffled. Footsteps recede down the hallway. "They're waiting downstairs. It's just me now." She doesn't believe him, but she unlocks the door anyway, because if Damien Castellano wanted to get into her apartment, a locked door wouldn't stop him. Better to face him on her terms than to let him break down her defenses. She opens the door just wide enough to see him, keeping the chain engaged, and her breath catches despite 3 years of telling herself she's over him. He's wearing a charcoal suit that probably costs more than 3 months of her rent, his dark hair shorter than she remembers, threaded with just a hint of silver at the temples. His face is harder somehow, the lines around his eyes deeper, his mouth pressed into a tight line. But his eyes, those dark eyes that had once looked at her with something like tenderness, are the same, except now they're looking at her with an intensity that makes her skin prickle with awareness and fear in equal measure. "You look different," he says, his gaze traveling over her face, her simple clothes, the cramped apartment visible behind her. Thinner. Tired. That's what happens when you work for a living. The bitterness in her voice surprises her. She'd thought she was past bitterness, had moved into acceptance. Something flickers in his expression. Regret, maybe, or anger. With Damien, it's always hard to tell. "Can I come in? I promise I'm not here to hurt you or cause trouble. I just need to talk." "We don't have anything to talk about. The divorce was final 3 years ago. I didn't take your money." "I didn't take anything from you. There's nothing left to discuss. There's this." He holds up a manila envelope, official-looking and ominous. Elena's stomach clenches. "What is that?" "Let me in, and I'll explain." Every instinct screams at her to slam the door, to grab Matteo and run. But curiosity wars with fear, and curiosity wins. She needs to know what brought him here, what threat he might pose. Better to know than to run blind. She closes the door long enough to unhook the chain, then opens it wider, stepping back. Damien enters slowly, carefully, like he's walking into a trap. Maybe he is. Maybe they both are. He's too large for the space, his presence filling the small living room, making the walls seem to close in. His eyes scan everything, taking in the worn furniture, the toys scattered near the couch, the children's books stacked on the coffee table. She sees his gaze catch on a framed photo, on Matteo's shelf, Matteo at the park, grinning gap-toothed at the camera. She sees the exact moment he understands. The color drains from his face, his hand clenching around the envelope so hard it crumples. He turns to her, his expression a mixture of shock and something that might be hope or might be fury. "You have a child. Not a question. A statement." "Mama, can I have juice?" Matteo appears from the kitchen, his small voice cutting through the tension like a knife. He stops when he sees Damien, his eyes going wide. "Who are you?" Elena moves instinctively, putting herself between her son and this man who could destroy them with a word. "Matteo, go to your room and play for a few minutes. Okay?" Mama needs to talk to this man. "But I want juice." His lower lip juts out, and Elena sees Damien flinch at the gesture, at the mannerism he must recognize as his own. "I'll bring you juice in just a minute. Go on, sweetheart." Matteo obeys reluctantly, his footsteps heavy with displeasure as he trudges to his bedroom. Elena waits until she hears the door close before she turns back to Damien, her hands curled into fists at her sides. "You need to leave. Now." "How old is he?" Damien's voice is hoarse, his gaze still fixed on the hallway where Matteo disappeared. "It doesn't matter. He's mine, not yours." "How old, Elena?" She lifts her chin, meeting his eyes with all the defiance she can muster. 2.5. She watches him do the math, sees understanding dawn in his expression. 2.5 years old. Born approximately 6 months after their divorce was finalized. Conceived during the last terrible months of their marriage, when they'd barely spoken except to fight, when their only communication had been angry, desperate sex that solved nothing and only made the pain worse. You were pregnant. He says it softly, like he's testing the words. When you left, you were pregnant with my child. I was pregnant with my child. You gave up any claim to him when you let me walk away without a fight. I didn't know. The envelope slips from his fingers, falling to the floor. Cristo, Elena, I didn't know. Why didn't you tell me? Because I knew what you'd do. You'd have trapped me in that marriage, used the baby as a leash. I couldn't live like that anymore, Damien. I couldn't be your prisoner. My prisoner? The words seemed to strike him like a physical blow. Is that what you thought you were? That's what I was. A beautiful bird in a gilded cage. Something pretty for you to look at when you had time between your meetings and your deals and your dangerous business that I wasn't allowed to ask about. I was suffocating, and you didn't even notice. He takes a step toward her, and she takes a step back, maintaining the distance between them. I noticed, he says, his voice rough. I noticed everything about you, Elena. The way you stopped smiling when I came home. The way you flinched when I touched you. The way you looked at that mansion like it was a prison. I just didn't know how to fix it. So you did nothing. And I had to save myself. By taking my child and disappearing? Anger flashes in his eyes now, the first real emotion breaking through his shock. By denying me the chance to know my own son? By protecting him from a life I didn't want for him? Elena's voice rises, 3 years of guilt and justification pouring out. By making sure he'd never have to grow up surrounded by violence and danger, never have to learn that his father hurts people for a living. The words hang between them, ugly and true. Damien's face goes carefully blank, the mask he wears when he's been wounded, but refuses to show it. She remembers that expression from their marriage, from all the times she'd tried to reach him only to encounter walls. I never hurt you, he says quietly, not with your hands. But there are other ways to hurt someone. Damien, other ways to break a person. She wraps her arms around herself, suddenly cold despite the stuffy warmth of the apartment. Why are you here? Why now, after 3 years? He bends to pick up the envelope, holds it out to her. Because of this. Open it. With shaking hands, Elena takes the envelope, slides out the papers inside. The letterhead is from a private medical laboratory, the kind that does discreet testing for people who don't want their business becoming public. She scans the document, the words blurring as her pulse pounds in her ears. DNA analysis. Paternity test. Subject. Male child. Name withheld. Age. 2 years. 6 months. Her eyes jump to the conclusion at the bottom of the page. Probability of paternity. 99.9%. She looks up at Damien, comprehension dawning like ice water in her veins. How did you get his DNA? I didn't. Someone else did, and they sent me the results. His jaw clenches. Along with a photo of you and Matteo at the park, and a message that said if I wanted to keep my son safe, I needed to meet their demands. The floor seems to tilt beneath Elena's feet. She stumbles to the couch, sinking down as her legs give out. What demands? Territory. Money. My cooperation in certain ventures I've spent years staying out of. Damien moves to stand in front of her, close enough now that she can smell his cologne, cedar, and bergamot, achingly familiar. Someone knows about Matteo, Elena. Someone who wants to use him as leverage against me. That's impossible. I've been so careful. I changed my name. I paid cash for everything. I stayed off social media. Nobody knows about him except my old boss, and he barely knows anything. But even as she says it, she remembers Mr. Chen's warning about the men who came asking questions. You've been careful, yes, but you can't disappear completely. Not in this city. Birth records, daycare registrations, medical appointments. All it takes is someone looking in the right places with the right motivation. Damien crouches in front of her, bringing himself to eye level. And someone was looking, Elena. Someone who wants to hurt me found the perfect weapon. Our son. Our son. The words send a shock through her system. For 2.5 years, Matteo has been hers alone. Her responsibility, her joy, her reason for getting up every morning and pushing through the exhaustion. The idea of sharing him, especially with Damien, feels like having something vital torn away. But the fear in Damien's eyes is real, and if what he's saying is true, if someone is threatening Matteo, then her carefully constructed walls of protection have already been breached. What do they want you to do? She asks. Work with the Volkov family. Give them access to my shipping routes, my ports, my legitimate businesses to launder their money. His mouth twists bitterly. Everything my father built, everything I've spent 10 years trying to keep clean, they want me to dirty it all over again. Elena knows the name Volkov. Everyone in certain circles knows it. The Russian bratva that's been trying to expand into New York for years, always pushing against the established families, always testing boundaries. Damien's family has held them off through a combination of strategic alliances and careful neutrality. And if you refuse, he doesn't answer, but the look in his eyes is enough. They'll hurt Matteo, or take him, or worse. We have to run. Elena stands abruptly, moving toward the closet where her emergency bag is stashed. We have to leave the city, get somewhere they can't find us. There's nowhere they can't find you. Damien catches her arm, his grip gentle but firm. If they found you once, they'll find you again. Running just delays the inevitable. Then what do you suggest? She whirls to face him, anger and fear making her voice sharp. That I just hand my son over to you? Let you take him into your world where people use children as weapons? I suggest we protect him together. His hand slides down her arm to her wrist, his thumb finding her pulse point. I have resources you don't. Security, safe houses, people I trust. But I need you to trust me too. Trust you? The laugh that escapes her is bitter. I trusted you once, Damien. I trusted you when I married you, when I tried to build a life with you, and you shut me out at every turn. I know. His admission is quiet, almost lost beneath the sound of rain still hammering the windows. I know I failed you. I know I drove you away. But Elena, this isn't about us anymore. This is about our son. Whatever happened between us, whatever mistakes I made, Matteo is innocent. He deserves protection. She wants to argue, wants to tell him that she's been protecting Matteo just fine on her own for 2.5 years. But the truth is, staring her in the face from that DNA test, from the fact that someone found them despite all her precautions, she can't do this alone anymore. If I agree to this, it doesn't mean I'm coming back to you, she says, needing to make that boundary clear. It doesn't mean we're together, or that you have some claim on me. I understand. And I have conditions. Something that might be respect flickers in his eyes. Name them. Matteo's safety comes first, before your business, before your reputation, before everything. If I think he's in danger, we leave and you don't try to stop us. Agreed. I make decisions about his care, his education, his daily life. You don't get to swoop in and play father after missing the first 2 years. His jaw tightens, but he nods. Agreed. And you don't lie to me. Not about the danger we're in, not about your business, not about anything that affects Matteo. I need the truth, Damien, even when it's ugly. He's quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes searching hers. Then slowly, he nods again. I'll tell you the truth. All of it. Even the parts I wanted to protect you from before. Especially those parts. She pulls her arm free from his grip, needing the space to think. When do we need to leave? Tonight. I have a place prepared. A safe house in upstate. Rural, isolated, easy to defend. My best men are already there setting up security. Tonight. Elena's gaze drifts to Mateo's closed bedroom door, imagining how she'll explain this to him. How do you tell a 2-year-old that everything is about to change? I need to pack, and Mateo will need his things, his favorite toys, his blanket. He won't sleep without his blanket. There's no time for much. We need to move quickly before whoever's watching realizes I've made contact. Then they'll have to wait while I pack my son's blanket. Elena's voice is steel. This is already going to traumatize him. I'm not making it worse by taking him from everything familiar without even his comfort items. Damien studies her for a moment, then inclines his head. 20 minutes. Pack what's essential. My men will collect anything else you need later. She moves past him toward Mateo's room, then pauses. The envelope. Who sent it? It came through an intermediary. No return address, no fingerprints. But the photo was taken last week at Riverside Park. Mateo was feeding the ducks. Elena's blood turns to ice. Last week. Someone had been close enough to photograph her baby, and she hadn't noticed. She'd been so focused on making Mateo's childhood normal, on giving him the simple joys she'd missed during her marriage, that she'd let her guard down. I'm sorry, she whispers. I tried to keep him safe. You did keep him safe. For 2 years, you did this alone, and you kept him healthy and happy and away from my world. Damien's voice is rough, with an emotion she can't quite name. I'm the one who should apologize. If I'd been a better husband, you wouldn't have felt like you needed to run. And Mateo would have had a father from the beginning. The apology catches her off guard. Damien Castellano doesn't apologize. He commands, he controls, he expects obedience. But this man standing in her shabby apartment, his expensive suit looking wrong against her discount furniture, seems different somehow. Smaller, more human. Vulnerable in a way she's never seen him. We can talk about fault later, she says, pulling herself together. Right now, let's just focus on keeping him safe. She enters Mateo's room to find him crashed on his small bed, arms wrapped around his stuffed elephant, already asleep despite the early hour. The stress of the disrupted routine must have exhausted him. Gently, she begins gathering his things. The special blanket with the satin edge he rubs between his fingers when he's tired. His 3 favorite books. Mr. Elephant, obviously. A change of clothes, his toothbrush, the small photo album she'd made of their life together. Behind her, she hears Damien enter. She doesn't turn around, can't bear to see his face as he looks at the son he's just discovered. But she hears the sharp intake of breath. The almost inaudible sound of a man confronting everything he's lost. He looks like you, Damien says softly. I thought so when I saw the photo, but seeing him in person, there's no question. He has my temper. Elena allows herself a small smile as she tucks items into Mateo's small backpack. And my stubbornness. Those are definitely your traits. There's warmth in his voice, an echo of the man she'd fallen in love with 5 years ago. The man who'd courted her with poetry and late-night conversations, who'd made her feel like she was the only woman in the world. Before the marriage, before the walls went up, before she'd learned that Damien Castellano had different versions of himself, and the one she'd fallen for wasn't the one he actually lived as. I'll get him, Damien says, moving toward the bed. Wait. Elena catches his arm. Let me. He doesn't know you. If he wakes up and sees a stranger carrying him, he'll be terrified. She sees the pain flash across his face before he schools his expression back to neutrality. Of course. Elena scoops Mateo up carefully, and he stirs but doesn't wake, just burrows his face into her shoulder with a sleepy murmur. She grabs the backpack with her free hand, and Damien takes it from her without a word. In the living room, she finds two men in dark suits standing guard, their presence a stark reminder of the world she's about to re-enter. Their types she recognizes from her marriage, all quiet efficiency and controlled violence. One of them nods to Damien. "The car is ready, Mr. Castellano. Side entrance is clear." "Good. Take Mrs. Castellano's bag from the bedroom closet." The emergency one. "I'm not Mrs. Castellano anymore," Elena corrects, but Damien ignores her, already moving toward the door. The descent from her apartment feels surreal, like she's watching someone else's life. Down the back stairs to avoid the elevator cameras. Out through a service entrance she'd never known existed. Into a sleek black SUV with bulletproof glass and leather seats that probably cost more than her entire apartment's furniture combined. Matteo sleeps through it all, his small body warm and trusting in her arms. Elena straps him into a car seat that's somehow already installed and perfectly adjusted for his size. Damien has thought of everything, or his people have. Probably the same people who've been tracking her for God knows how long, gathering information, preparing for this moment. Damien slides into the seat beside her, and the driver pulls away from the curb smoothly. Elena watches through the tinted windows as her neighborhood disappears, the familiar bodegas and laundromats and corner stores that had become her landscape fading into the rainy night. "There's no going back," Damien says quietly, following her gaze. "You know that, right? Even if we resolve the Volkov situation, things can't go back to how they were. I know." And she does. The life she'd built, the careful anonymity, the independence she'd fought so hard for, it's all over. She's back in Damien's orbit now, caught again in the gravitational pull she'd escaped once before. But this time, she has Matteo to think about. This time, she's not the naive girl who married for love without understanding the cost. This time, she'll fight to protect what matters. "The safe house," she says. "How long will we have to stay there?" "As long as it takes to neutralize the threat. Days, maybe weeks." He's looking at Matteo, his expression unreadable. "I've already reached out to my contacts, called in favors. Someone will talk, and when they do, I'll know who's behind this." "And then what? You go to war with the Volkovs?" Elena keeps her voice low, aware of the driver even though a privacy partition is raised between the front and back seats. If necessary, his eyes meet hers, and they're hard, flat. The eyes of a man who's made difficult decisions and will make them again. "I've avoided conflict with them for years, tried to stay neutral. But if they threaten my family, there's no neutrality. There's only protection. His family." The words settle over Elena like a weight. She'd stopped being his family 3 years ago, had signed papers to make it official. But Matteo is his blood, his heir, the son he'd probably given up on ever having after their marriage ended. She'd seen Damien's face during their marriage, when friends brought their children to gatherings, had noticed the way his eyes followed the toddlers playing in the garden, the way his expression softened when he held an infant. He'd wanted children. She'd wanted them too, had imagined little girls with dark curls and little boys with serious eyes. But the time had never been right. He was always too busy, the world always too dangerous. And then she'd stopped wanting to bring a child into their broken marriage, stopped wanting to tie herself to him irrevocably. Except she'd ended up pregnant anyway, and she'd tied herself to him in the most irrevocable way possible. "What will you tell him?" Damien asks. "About me? About why we're together now?" It's a good question, one she's been avoiding thinking about. "The truth, I guess. An age-appropriate version of it. That you're his father. That we need to stay somewhere safe for a while." "And about us?" About why I wasn't there before? I'll tell him that we made mistakes, that we hurt each other, but that we both love him and want to keep him safe. She looks down at Matteo's sleeping face, so innocent, so unaware of the complications his existence has created. I won't lie to him, Damien. I won't pretend we're something we're not just to make this easier. I'm not asking you to. He leans back against the seat, suddenly looking exhausted. I just want a chance to know him, to be his father, even if I can never be your husband again. You gave up being my husband when you chose your business over our marriage. The words come out harsher than she intends, edged with old pain. I chose my business because it was all I knew how to be good at. Damien's admission is quiet. With you, I was always failing, always saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing. But with my business, I knew the rules. I knew how to win. Marriage isn't about winning, Damien. It's about partnership. I know that now. He turns to look at her, and there's something raw in his expression. I've had 3 years to think about where I went wrong. 3 years of an empty house and an empty bed, and the knowledge that I'd driven away the only person who ever made me feel like more than my father's son. Elena's throat tightens at his words, at the vulnerability she'd never expected to hear from him. Don't do this, she whispers. Don't try to rewrite history or make this about us. This is about Matteo. Only about Matteo. Is it? His hand reaches toward her, then drops back to his lap. Or is this also about the fact that for 3 years, both of us have been living half-lives? You, hiding in an apartment that's barely a home, working yourself to exhaustion to prove you don't need anyone. Me, building an empire that means nothing because there's no one to share it with. You could have shared it with me when we were married. You chose not to. I chose wrong. The admission seems torn from somewhere deep. I chose to protect you by keeping you separate from my business, and instead, I made you feel like you didn't matter. I chose to shield you from danger by keeping secrets, and instead, I made you feel like you couldn't trust me. I chose to be strong by never showing weakness, and instead, I made you think I didn't feel anything. The rain has intensified, drumming on the roof of the SUV as they navigate through traffic heading north out of the city. Elena watches the streetlights blur past, each one marking distance from her old life. Why didn't you fight for me? The question escapes before she can stop it, the one she's asked herself 1,000 times in the 3 years since she left. When I filed for divorce, you just let me go. You didn't argue, didn't try to change my mind. You sent your lawyer with a check and walked away. Because you were right to leave. Damien's voice is barely audible over the rain. I saw what our marriage was doing to you. You stopped eating, stopped sleeping. You looked at me like I was a stranger, like you were afraid of me. And I knew that if you stayed, I'd destroy you completely. So you let me go. I let you go. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done. He runs a hand through his hair, disrupting its perfect style. Every day since, I've wondered where you were, if you were safe, if you were happy. I had people looking for you, did you know that? For the first 6 months, I had investigators tracking every lead, but you disappeared completely. Elena's surprised by this revelation. She'd assumed he'd moved on immediately, probably back to the mistresses she'd always suspected, but never confirmed. You were looking for me. Of course I was looking for you. You were my wife. Ex-wife. The papers said ex-wife. My heart said something different. He turns to face her fully. I never stopped loving you, Elena. I just didn't know how to show it in a way that didn't suffocate you. The confession hangs between them, heavy with possibility and pain. Elena wants to believe him, wants to think that the man she fell in love with is still somewhere inside the cold stranger he became. But belief is dangerous. Belief is what got her trapped in the first place. "Love isn't enough," she says, finally. "I loved you too, Damien. So much it hurt. But love without trust, without honesty, without partnership, it's just another kind of prison. Then let me earn those things." His hand covers hers where it rests on the seat between them. "Let me prove I can be different. Better. Not for us. Not yet. But for Matteo. Let me show him what a father should be, even if I have to learn from scratch." She should pull her hand away, should maintain the boundaries she set. But his touch is warm and familiar, and she's so tired of being strong alone. "One chance," she says. "You get one chance to be his father. If you hurt him, if you let him down the way you let me down, I will take him and disappear so completely you'll never find us. Understood?" His fingers tighten around hers. "Thank you." They drive in silence after that, the city gradually giving way to suburbs, then to darker roads lined with trees. Matteo wakes once, confused and cranky, and Elena soothes him back to sleep with quiet words and gentle stroking of his hair. She feels Damien watching them, feels the intensity of his gaze, but she doesn't look at him. After nearly 2 hours, they turn onto a private road that winds through dense forest. The headlights illuminate a gate that opens automatically as they approach, revealing a sprawling property that looks more like a compound than a house. "This is the safe house?" Elena asks, taking in the stone walls, the guard tower she can just make out in the darkness, the multiple buildings spread across what must be acres of land. "This is one of them. It used to be a private estate, but I acquired it 5 years ago for situations exactly like this." Damien's tone is matter of fact, like everyone has heavily fortified compounds for emergencies. The main house is impressive even in the darkness, all modern architecture and floor-to-ceiling windows that probably look out over spectacular views in daylight. But Elena notices the steel shutters that can cover those windows, the reinforced doors, the security cameras positioned at every angle. A prison, her mind whispers, just a prettier one than before. But no, she corrects herself. A prison is somewhere you can't leave. Damien has promised she can go if she feels Matteo is in danger. She has to trust that much, at least. Staff materialize as the SUV stops, quiet and efficient, taking their minimal luggage, offering refreshments, showing them inside. The interior is warm and welcoming, despite the fortress-like exterior. All comfortable furniture and soft lighting, and the kind of casual luxury that costs a fortune to achieve. "The master suite is upstairs," a woman in her 50s says, her accent marking her as Eastern European. "I've prepared the room next to it as a nursery." "Matteo isn't a baby," Elena corrects. "He'll need a toddler bed, not a crib." "Of course. I will adjust." The woman's eyes flick to Damien, and Elena catches a look of surprise quickly hidden. These people didn't know about Matteo either. Damien has kept this secret, hasn't paraded his newfound son to his staff. She's not sure what that means, but it eases something tight in her chest. "I'll show you to your rooms," Damien says, and Elena notices he doesn't correct the staff member about the master suite, doesn't clarify that they'll need separate bedrooms. She's too tired to fight about it now, so she follows him up a curved staircase to the second floor, Matteo heavy in her arms. The master suite is enormous, with a sitting area, a fireplace, a bathroom that's all marble and glass, and a bed that could sleep 4 people. The adjoining room has indeed been prepared as a nursery, but it takes the staff less than 10 minutes to transform it into a proper toddler space. They bring in a small bed with guardrails, move the changing table out, add a toy box and a bookshelf with age-appropriate books. Elena settles Matteo into the bed, tucking his blanket around him, placing Mr. Elephant within reach, He stirs slightly, his eyes opening just enough to focus on her face. "Mama." His voice is sleep-slurred and small. "I'm right here, baby." "Go back to sleep." "Where are we?" "Somewhere safe. We're staying here for a little while with—" She hesitates, unsure how to explain Damien. "With me," Damien says from the doorway, his voice gentle. "My name is Damien. I'm a friend of your mama's. Mateo studies him with solemn eyes. You're big." "I am big, and you're very smart to notice that." "I'm smart," Mateo agrees, his eyes already drifting closed again. "Mama says I'm the smartest boy." She's right. Damien steps into the room, and Elena tenses, but he just kneels beside the bed, bringing himself to Mateo's level. "Sleep well, Mateo. We'll talk more in the morning." "'Kay," Mateo mumbles, and then he's asleep, his breathing evening out into the steady rhythm of childhood slumber. Elena stands, and Damien follows her out of the room, leaving the door cracked so she can hear if Mateo wakes. In the master bedroom, she turns to face him. "I'm not sleeping in here with you." "I assumed not. I'll take one of the guest rooms down the hall." "Then why tell the staff this was the master suite?" He's quiet for a moment. "Because if the Volkovs have people watching, I want them to think we're together. A man is less likely to cooperate with threats if he appears to have everything he wants: a wife, a son, a happy family. It makes him seem less desperate, less controllable. It makes a cold kind of sense. So this is all strategy. Not all of it." He moves closer, and she forces herself not to retreat. "Some of it is hope. Hope for what? For a second chance, for the possibility that maybe, someday, you'll forgive me enough to let me back into your life. Not just as Mateo's father, but as the man who loves you." Her heart clenches painfully. "Damien, I can't think about that right now. I can barely process everything that's happened today." "I know. I'm not asking for anything tonight except that you rest. You look exhausted, Elena. When's the last time you slept a full night?" "I don't remember." It's true. Between work and Mateo, and the constant low-level anxiety of looking over her shoulder, she hasn't slept well in months, maybe years. "Then sleep now. You're safe here. My men are watching the perimeter. The security system is state-of-the-art, and I'll be right down the hall if you need anything." He moves toward the door, then pauses. "There are clothes in the closet for you. Different sizes, different styles. Help yourself to whatever fits." After he leaves, Elena explores the suite more fully. The closet is indeed stocked with women's clothing. Everything from casual jeans to evening gowns, all with the tags still on. She finds pajamas in her exact size, soft silk that feels like luxury against her skin after years of discount store cotton. The bathroom has every toiletry she could need, including her preferred brand of face wash, a detail so specific it sends a chill down her spine. How much did Damien know about her life? How long had he been watching before he made contact? She's too tired to be angry about it tonight. Instead, she washes her face, brushes her teeth with a toothbrush still in its packaging, and crawls into the enormous bed. The sheets are high thread count, the pillows perfect. The mattress somehow both supportive and cloud soft. She should hate this, should resent being back in a world of casual luxury after working so hard to prove she could survive without it. But her exhausted body doesn't care about principles. It just sinks into the comfort and surrenders. She's almost asleep when she hears it. A soft sound from the hallway, footsteps approaching Mateo's room. Every maternal instinct fires at once, and she's out of bed and through the door before she's fully conscious of moving. Damien stands in Mateo's doorway, just watching their son sleep. He doesn't enter, doesn't approach the bed. He just stands there, his expression unguarded in a way she's rarely seen. He looks devastated, and awed, and terrified. He's perfect, Damien whispers when he notices her. I keep thinking I'll wake up, and this will be a dream, that I don't really have a son. Elena moves to stand beside him, and together they watch Matteo sleep, his small chest rising and falling, his face peaceful. He has nightmares sometimes, she says quietly, about monsters. I tell him there's no such thing, that he's safe. You've been lying to him then. There are monsters. I'm one of them. She turns to look at him, sees the self-loathing in his expression. You're not a monster, Damien. You're just a man who makes difficult choices in an impossible world. That's a generous interpretation. It's the truth, or at least it's part of the truth. She touches his arm, feeling the tension in his muscles. But if you want to be his father, you'll have to make different choices. Better ones. I know. He covers her hand with his. I will. I swear to you, Elena, I'll be better. For him, I'll be the man I should have been all along. They stand there for a long moment, two people bound together by the sleeping child between them, by mistakes and regrets, and the faint possibility of redemption. Then Elena pulls away gently, needing space, needing sleep. Good night, Damien. Good night, Elena. Sleep well. But sleep, when it comes, is fitful and full of dreams. Dreams of the early days with Damien, when everything felt possible. Dreams of their wedding day, her in white lace, him in a sharp tuxedo, both of them so young and hopeful. Dreams that shift and darken, the mansion becoming a prison, the walls closing in, Damien's face becoming cold and distant. She wakes with a start to find pale morning light filtering through the windows, and Matteo standing beside her bed, Mr. Elephant clutched in one hand. Mama, I'm hungry, and this isn't our house. Elena sits up, pulling him into her arms, breathing in his familiar little boy scent of sleep and baby shampoo. I know, sweetheart. Remember, I told you we're staying somewhere safe for a while. But why? His lower lip trembles. I want to go home. I want Miss Sarah and the park. How do you explain danger to a 2-year-old? How do you make them understand that home isn't safe anymore without terrifying them? We're on an adventure, she tries, like in your storybooks, and we're going to stay in this big house and explore. Is the big man from last night here? Matteo's eyes are wide and uncertain. Damien. Yes. He's here. He's going to stay with us during our adventure. Why? The eternal question of toddlerhood. Why? 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 Elena takes a breath, knowing this conversation will change everything. Because Damien is your papa, your daddy, and he wants to spend time with you. Matteo processes this, his small brow furrowing. I have a daddy? You've always had a daddy. He just didn't know about you before. But now he does, and he's very happy to meet you. Jackson has a daddy. His daddy picks him up from school sometimes. Matteo's voice is matter-of-fact, comparing this new information to his existing understanding of the world. Will my daddy pick me up from school? Maybe, sometimes, if you want him to. Does he know about Mr. Elephant? The question, so quintessentially Matteo, so focused on what matters in his small world, makes Elena's eyes sting with tears. Not yet. But you can tell him about Mr. Elephant at breakfast. Would you like that? Matteo considers this seriously. Okay. But if he's mean to Mr. Elephant, I don't want him to be my daddy. That's fair. Elena kisses the top of his head. Let's get you dressed, and then we'll find some breakfast. The clothes that were in Matteo's backpack are wrinkled from travel, but there's a soft knock at the door, and the same Eastern European woman from last night enters with an armful of children's clothing. Good morning, Mrs. Castellano. I took the liberty of acquiring some items for the little one. I hope the sizes are correct. It's Ms. Martinez, Elena corrects gently, but she's touched by the thoughtfulness. The woman has brought jeans, t-shirts, pajamas, even a small jacket, all in Mateo's size. My apologies, Ms. Martinez. I am Katya. I manage the household staff. If you need anything during your stay, please ask me. After Katya leaves, Elena dresses Mateo in new jeans and a t-shirt with a dinosaur on it. He's delighted by the dinosaur, roaring at his reflection in the mirror, his earlier uncertainty forgotten in the joy of a new toy. They descend the stairs to find Damien already in the dining room, coffee in hand, reading something on a tablet. He's dressed more casually than she's ever seen him, dark jeans and a gray sweater that makes him look younger, more approachable. He looks up when they enter, and the expression that crosses his face when he sees Mateo is pure wonder. Good morning. He sets down the tablet, giving them his full attention. Did you sleep well? Mama says you're my daddy, Mateo announces, cutting straight to the point with the brutal honesty of childhood. Is that true? Yes? Damien's voice is steady, but Elena can see the emotion in his eyes. It's true. I'm your father. This is Mr. Elephant. Mateo holds up the stuffed animal. He's my best friend. You can't be mean to him. I would never be mean to Mr. Elephant. He looks like a very good friend. Damien is serious, treating this introduction with the gravity it deserves. He is. He knows everything. Mateo climbs into a chair at the table. Mr. Elephant settled in his lap. Are you going to live with us now? Damien glances at Elena, and she gives him a small nod. His answer, she knows. For a little while, yes, while we're staying in this house. And then will you go away? There's a wariness in Mateo's voice, and Elena realizes with a pang that he's asking if Damien will abandon him the way his father has been absent his whole life. No. Damien's voice is firm. Even when we're not in the same house, I'll still be your father. I'll still be part of your life. Always. Promise? I promise. Damien holds out his hand, and after a moment, Mateo puts his small hand in it. They shake solemnly, sealing the pact. Elena has to look away, overcome by the moment. This is what she'd denied Mateo, this connection to his father. She'd thought she was protecting him, and maybe she had been. But she'd also taken something from him, and watching them now, she feels the weight of that choice. Breakfast appears, brought by quiet staff who seem to materialize and vanish like ghosts. Pancakes for Mateo, which delight him. Eggs and toast for Elena. Damien barely eats, too focused on watching his son. Tell me about yourself, Mateo, Damien says. What do you like to do? I like the park, and books, and goldfish crackers, Mateo considers, and painting, but I'm not very good yet. Miss Sarah says I will be if I practice. I'm sure you will be. What do you like to paint? Monsters. Big ones with lots of teeth. Mateo demonstrates with his hands, making chomping motions. Monsters, huh? Are you afraid of them? No. Mama says monsters aren't real, and even if they were, she'd protect me. Mateo's faith in her is absolute, and it makes Elena's heart clench. Your mama's right. She's very good at protecting you. Damien's eyes meet hers over Mateo's head. And now, you have both of us to protect you. After breakfast, Elena expects Damien to have business to attend to disappear into an office, the way he always did during their marriage. Instead, he asks Mateo if he'd like to explore the property. Can we, Mama? Mateo bounces with excitement. Sure, sweetheart. Let me get your jacket. The three of them venture outside into a crisp autumn morning. The property is even more impressive in daylight. Rolling hills and mature trees, a small lake in the distance, and what looks like a stable. You have horses? Elena asks, surprised. The previous owner did. I kept them. Someone comes twice a week to care for them. Damien scoops Matteo up to give him a better view when the horses are visible in their paddock. Would you like to see them up close? Matteo nods enthusiastically, and they make their way to the stable. There are 3 horses, all gentle and clearly well cared for. Damien introduces Matteo to each one, teaching him how to hold his hand flat when offering an apple slice, explaining that you should always let a horse smell you before you touch it. Elena watches, bemused. I didn't know you knew anything about horses. I didn't until I bought this place. Then I figured I should learn. He hoists Matteo onto his shoulders so the boy can see into the stalls better. Thought it might be useful someday. They spend the morning exploring. Damien shows them the security perimeter, explaining it to Matteo as a special fence that keeps everyone safe. They find a garden that's still producing late vegetables, and Matteo is fascinated by the idea that food grows in the ground. It's almost normal, almost like they're a real family on a weekend getaway, not 3 people hiding from Russian mobsters who want to use a child as leverage. But the illusion shatters when they return to the house to find one of Damien's men waiting, his face grim. We need to talk, the man says, his eyes flicking to Matteo with clear meaning. Damien's expression hardens instantly, the gentle father disappearing beneath the cold businessman. Elena, would you take Matteo inside? Katya has set up some activities in the playroom. What's happening? Nothing for you to worry about right now. I'll fill you in later. It's a dismissal, the same kind she received constantly during their marriage, and it ignites her temper. We had an agreement, Damien. No lies. If this affects Matteo's safety, I need to know. His jaw clenches. Later. Not in front of him. She wants to argue, but he's right. Whatever news his man has brought, Matteo doesn't need to hear it. So she nods tightly and takes Matteo's hand. Come on, baby. Let's see what the playroom looks like. The playroom is incredible. Stocked with toys that must have been rushed here overnight. Building blocks, puzzles, art supplies, even a small indoor slide. Matteo is in heaven, and Elena settles him with some blocks before stepping out into the hallway. She can hear voices from Damien's office, low and intense. She shouldn't eavesdrop, should respect his privacy. But her son's life might depend on this information, so she moves closer to the door, which hasn't been fully closed. Made contact with 3 of our distributors. They're offering 20% above market rate for access to the docks. The unfamiliar voice is reporting facts. 2 have refused outright, but Martinez is considering it. Martinez is a liability. Damien's voice is cold. If he's considering their offer, he's already too compromised. Pull our contracts with him immediately. That will create a gap in our southern routes. I'm aware. I'd rather have a gap than a traitor. Elena's hand pressed against the doorframe as she continues listening, her heart racing. There's more, the voice continues. The Volkovs put out feelers with the Bratva in Brighton Beach. They're trying to build an alliance, unite the Russian families against you. Let them try. Most of the Bratva families remember what my father did during the territorial wars. They won't side with the Volkovs unless they think I've gone soft. A pause. Have we identified who took the photograph? Who accessed the DNA records? Still working on it. But boss, there's something else. We got a message this morning. They want to meet. Elena hears Damien's sharp intake of breath. When and where? Tomorrow night. Neutral territory, the old warehouse district by the waterfront. They're proposing a negotiation. It's a trap. Probably. But it's also an opportunity. If we can identify their leadership, find out exactly what they want. I know what they want. They want me to compromise everything my family built, turn my legitimate businesses into fronts for their drug trafficking and weapons smuggling. The sound of something being slammed down, maybe a glass. And they think threatening my son will make me compliant. Will it? The silence that follows is heavy. Elena holds her breath, waiting for Damien's answer. 3 days ago, I would have said nothing could make me compromise my principles, that I'd go to war before I'd dirty my family name. Damien's voice is quiet now, almost introspective. But that was before I knew I had a son, before I saw him sleeping, heard him laugh, watched him hold his mother's hand like she's his whole world. So you're considering their offer. I'm considering that there are things more important than principles, family, legacy, making sure my son grows up to have choices I never had. Another pause. Set up the meeting, but double our security. I want men on every approach, eyes on every exit, and Elena and Matteo stay here, completely locked down. Understood. Anything else? Yes. Find out who leaked information about my ex-wife. Someone had to know she was pregnant when she left, had to know where to start looking. That means someone close to me, someone I trusted. The rage in his voice is carefully controlled. When you find them, bring them to me personally. Elena backs away from the door before she can be discovered, her mind reeling. Damien is walking into what he knows is a trap, risking himself for her and Matteo. And there's a traitor in his organization, someone who's been feeding information to the Volkovs. She's back in the playroom, stacking blocks with Matteo, when Damien appears in the doorway 20 minutes later. His expression is carefully neutral, but she can see the tension in his shoulders. Can we talk? He asks. Katya can watch Matteo for a few minutes. Katya materializes, as if summoned, settling onto the floor with Matteo and immediately engaging him in building a tower. Elena follows Damien to a small study down the hall, closing the door behind them. I heard, she says, before he can speak. The meeting tomorrow. The traitor. All of it. She expects anger at her eavesdropping, but Damien just nods tiredly. I should have known you wouldn't wait patiently for information. You promised me honesty. I did. I was planning to tell you everything after lunch, when Matteo was napping. He moves to the window, looking out over the property. Tomorrow night, I'm meeting with the Volkovs. It's likely a trap, but it's also our best chance to end this quickly. By giving them what they want. By negotiating terms that protect my family while minimizing the damage to my business. He turns to face her. I won't let them have full access to my operations, but I might agree to limited cooperation, enough to make them back off. You'd compromise everything you believe in? I'd compromise everything except what matters most. His eyes hold hers. You and Matteo matter most. If I have to dirty my hands to keep you safe, I will. Elena sinks into a chair, processing this. The Damien she married would never have considered compromise, would have gone to war rather than bend. But this man, this father who's known his son for less than 24 hours, is willing to sacrifice his principles. There has to be another way, she says. Something that doesn't require you to become what you've spent years avoiding. If you can think of one, I'm listening. She can't. That's the terrible truth. The Volkovs have them cornered, have found the perfect pressure point. As long as Matteo exists, as long as the Volkovs know about him, they have leverage. What if we really did disappear? She asks. What if we took Matteo somewhere they'd never find us? South America, Southeast Asia, somewhere remote? And you'd spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder, never feeling safe, never letting Matteo have a normal childhood. Damien shakes his head. That's not a solution. That's just a different kind of prison. Better than you sacrificing everything. That's not your choice to make. He moves closer, crouching in front of her chair. Elena, I've spent 3 years regretting the way I handled our marriage, wishing I'd chosen differently. This time, I'm making the right choice. I'm choosing my family. We're not your family anymore. Matteo is. And whether you want to admit it or not, you are too. You're the mother of my son, the only woman I've ever loved, the person I wake up thinking about and fall asleep missing. His hand covers hers. Let me protect you. Both of you. She wants to pull away, wants to maintain her independence, her boundaries. But his touch is warm, and his eyes are sincere, and she's so tired of being strong alone. What about the traitor? She asks instead. What if they sabotage the meeting? My people are handling it. We'll find whoever leaked information about you, and we'll deal with them. The coldness in his voice when he says, deal with them, reminds her exactly who she's dealing with. Deal with them? How? However necessary. Damien, I need you to promise me something. She turns her hand over, gripping his. Whatever happens tomorrow, whatever you have to do, you come back. Matteo just found out he has a father. He can't lose you now. Something raw flashes across his face. I'll come back. I swear it. They sit like that for a moment, hands clasped, the space between them charged with possibility and old pain and new hope. Then Matteo's voice echoes from the playroom, calling for his mama, and the spell breaks. The rest of the day passes in a strange domesticity. Lunch together, Matteo chattering about the horses and the toys, and whether they can go swimming in the lake. No, it's too cold, maybe in the summer. Damien has business calls to make, but he takes them in the study with the door open, keeping Elena and Matteo in view. She notices other things too. The way his eyes track Matteo constantly, like he's trying to memorize every expression, every gesture. The way he unconsciously mimics Matteo's movements, reaching for his coffee when Matteo reaches for his juice box. The way he smiles, really smiles, when Matteo tells a rambling story about a dog at the park. This is what fatherhood is doing to Damien Castellano, feared businessman and rumored crime boss. It's softening him, humanizing him, giving him something to lose. And that, Elena realizes, makes him more dangerous than ever. A man with nothing to lose follows rules, calculates risks, makes rational decisions. But a man protecting his child is capable of anything. After dinner, Elena gives Matteo a bath in the enormous tub in their bathroom, letting him play with toy boats until his fingers prune. When she carries him back to his room in his dinosaur pajamas, she finds Damien waiting with a stack of books. I thought maybe I could read to him, Damien says, almost shy. If that's okay. Matteo looks to Elena for permission, and she nods, her throat tight. That would be nice. They settle on Matteo's bed, the three of them, with Matteo between his parents. Damien reads with surprising skill, doing different voices for different characters, pausing to let Matteo point out details in the pictures. Elena watches them, her heart aching with what-ifs. What if she'd told Damien about the pregnancy? What if she'd given him a chance to be this father from the beginning? Would it have saved their marriage, or would it just have trapped them both in misery? She'll never know. All she has is now, this moment, her son laughing at his father's silly voice for the big bad wolf, both of them completely absorbed in the story. When Matteo's eyes start to droop, Damien closes the book and smooths back his son's dark hair. Sleep well, Matteo. Will you be here in the morning? Matteo asks, his voice sleepy but anxious. I'll be here. Damien doesn't hesitate. Doesn't qualify the promise. Okay. Good night, Daddy. The word lands like a bomb in the quiet room. Daddy. Matteo has been calling him Damien all day, testing out the new relationship. But now, drowsy and vulnerable, he's claimed Damien fully. Elena sees Damien's eyes shine with unshed tears. "Good night, son." They leave together, pulling the door mostly closed, leaving it cracked so they can hear if Matteo wakes. In the hallway, Damien leans against the wall, his hand over his face. "Are you okay?" Elena asks. "He called me Daddy." Damien's voice breaks. "Cristo, Elena, he called me Daddy." "He's accepting you. That's good." "I don't deserve it. I wasn't there when he was born. Didn't change his diapers or walk the floor with him at night or teach him his first words. I've been absent for every important moment of his life, and he's still willing to call me Daddy." Elena's chest tightens at the pain in his voice. "He's 2 years old, Damien. He doesn't know what he missed because I made sure his life was full without you. But that doesn't mean he doesn't need you now. Children, they don't hold grudges like adults do. They just love, completely and without reservation. Like you used to love me. It's not a question. Yes, she admits, like I used to love you. Before walls and secrets and all the things that went wrong between us." He drops his hand, and his eyes, when they meet hers, are devastated. "If I could go back, if I could do it all differently, but you can't. None of us can." She touches his arm gently. "All we can do is move forward. Try to be better than we were before. Is there a version of forward where you forgive me? Where we could try again?" The question hangs between them, heavy with possibility. Elena's first instinct is to say no, to protect herself from the pain he could inflict. But looking at him now, vulnerable and desperate, and so different from the cold stranger he became, she's not sure anymore. "I don't know," she says honestly. "Ask me again when this is over, when Matteo is safe and you've kept your promises." "Fair enough." He straightens, some of his usual composure returning. "There's something I need to show you. Come with me." She follows him downstairs to his office, a masculine space of dark wood and leather. He unlocks a drawer in his desk and removes a folder, handing it to her. Inside are legal documents. Custody agreements, trust fund paperwork, a will. Elena scans them quickly, her hands beginning to shake as she understands what she's reading. "You're giving me full legal custody?" she asks, looking up at him in disbelief. "With generous visitation rights for me, but yes, I'm also establishing a trust fund for Matteo that you'll control until he's 18. And I've updated my will to leave everything to him, with you as executor until he's of age." Damien's expression is serious. "I know you're afraid I'll use my money and connections to take him from you. This is my guarantee that I won't." "Why would you do this? You could fight me for custody, probably win with your resources. Because keeping you both with me through fear isn't keeping you at all. It's just another kind of prison. And I've already trapped you once." He comes around the desk to stand in front of her. "I want you and Matteo in my life because you choose to be, not because I've forced you. So I'm giving you the power, Elena, the choice. You can walk away whenever you want, and I won't stop you." Elena stares at the documents, at the signature lines waiting for her name. "This is crazy. You're essentially giving up any control." "No, I'm trusting you to make the right decisions for our son, and proving to you that I'm serious about being different." He hands her a pen. "Sign them. Make it legal. Then you'll know I mean every promise I'm making." Her hand trembles as she takes the pen. This is power she never expected, security she never dared hope for. If she signs these documents, Damien can't threaten to take Matteo, can't use their son as leverage to control her. She'll have legal protection, financial security, and the freedom to choose. It's everything she wanted when she left him 3 years ago. everything she's been fighting for since. So why does signing feel like accepting something more? Like agreeing to let him back into her life in ways that terrify her? What if I sign these and then leave anyway, she asks. What if I take Matteo and you never see him again? Then I'll live with it, because it will mean I failed to prove myself, failed to be the father and the man you both deserve. His voice is steady. But I'm betting on myself, Elena. I'm betting that if you give me a real chance, I can make you want to stay. She signs. Her name looks strange on the expensive paper, official and binding. Damien witnesses her signature. You need a hospital, the medic says. No hospitals. Just patch me up. Damien's eyes find Elena. Is Matteo okay? He didn't wake up? He's fine, sleeping. Damien, what happened? Later. Let him work first. She watches as the medic cleans and stitches the wound. Damien's jaw clenched against the pain but making no sound. His eyes never leave her face, like she's an anchor keeping him grounded. Finally, the medic finishes, wrapping clean bandages around Damien's torso. You need to rest, take antibiotics, change the dressing twice a day. And seriously, if it shows any sign of infection, you need a hospital. Understood. Thank you, Doc. After the medic leaves, it's just Elena and Damien in the living room, the fire casting shadows across his pale face. She sits beside him on the couch, careful not to jostle his injury. Tell me everything, she demands. Damien leans back against the couch, his hand pressed against his bandaged side. It was a trap, just like we suspected. But it was also an opportunity. The Volkovs brought their leadership, including Viktor Volkov himself. They thought they had the upper hand. What happened? We talked first. I tried negotiation, offered limited cooperation in exchange for them leaving my family alone. Viktor laughed in my face. Damien's expression hardens at the memory. He said I was weak, that fatherhood had made me soft. He wanted full access to my operations, wanted to use my shipping routes for weapons trafficking, and he wanted regular access to Matteo. Elena's blood runs cold. Access to Matteo? Why? Insurance, he called it. A way to make sure I stayed in line. He wanted my son to spend weekends with his people, learning the business. The rage in Damien's voice is barely controlled. He described it as giving Matteo opportunities, teaching him to be strong. But I knew what it really was, grooming him, corrupting him, turning him into a tool. What did you do? I told him no, that I'd burn everything I'd built before I'd let him touch my son. Damien meets her eyes. That's when the shooting started. Turns out, the traitor had told the Volkovs I'd refuse their terms. They'd planned to take me out, create chaos in my organization, then move in on my businesses during the power vacuum. But you're here, you survived. Because my team was better prepared than they expected, and because I had motivation they didn't account for. I fought like a man with everything to lose. He touches her face gently. The Volkovs are done, Elena. Viktor is dead. His lieutenants are scattered. The threat to our family is over. She should feel relief, should feel joy that the danger has passed, but all she can focus on is the blood seeping through his bandages, the pallor of his skin, how close she came to losing him. You could have died. Her voice breaks. Matteo could have woken up tomorrow to find out he'd lost his father after just 2 days. But I didn't die. I'm here. His thumb strokes her cheek. I'm here because I had someone worth coming home to. 2 someones. The tears she's been holding back spill over. I was so scared. I kept thinking about all the things I never said, all the chances I didn't take. If you died tonight thinking I still hated you, do you hate me? No. The admission is whispered, but certain. I don't hate you. I never really did, even when I wanted to. I was just hurt and angry and scared. And now, she looks at him, really looks at him, this man who signed away his parental rights to prove he trusted her, who walked into a trap to protect their son, who took a bullet and still made sure she was safe before seeking treatment. Now, I think maybe we deserve a second chance, a real one, where we both try harder, communicate better, choose each other every day. The hope that blooms in his expression is almost painful to witness. Elena, are you saying? I'm saying I want to try. I want to see if we can build something better than what we had before. For Matteo, yes, but also for us. She takes his hand, threading their fingers together. But it has to be different this time. No secrets, no walls, no shutting me out. No secrets, he agrees. I'll tell you everything about my business, even the parts that aren't pretty. You'll know exactly who I am and what I do. And I need to be a partner, not a possession. I need to have my own life, my own career, my own identity outside of being Mrs. Castellano. Agreed. You can be whatever you want to be, Elena. Accountant, business owner, anything. I'll support you. His hand tightens on hers. And maybe, eventually, you'll want to be Mrs. Castellano again. But only when you're ready. Only when you choose it freely. She leans against his uninjured side, and his arm comes around her, pulling her close. They sit like that, watching the fire. Both of them processing the magnitude of what's just happened. We should tell Matteo together, Elena says finally, that we're going to try to be a family. He'll like that. He asked me this morning if I was going to marry you again. He what? Elena sits up, startled. Damien smiles, the first real smile she's seen from him in years. He said Jackson's parents are married and live together, and he wanted to know if we'd do that too. I told him maybe someday, if his mama wanted to. What did he say? He said you should want to, because I seem nice, and I read good bedtime stories. Elena laughs through her tears. High praise from a 2-year-old. The highest. Damien's expression sobers. I don't expect this to be easy, Elena. We have a lot of history, a lot of hurt to work through. But I'm committed to doing the work, to being the man you both deserve. I know, and I'm committed to giving you a real chance, to not running at the first sign of trouble. She touches the bandage visible beneath his torn shirt. You need to rest. That wound needs time to heal. In a minute. Right now, I just want to hold you. So she settles back against him, and they sit in the firelight. Two broken people beginning to heal, beginning to hope that maybe, just maybe, love really can conquer all. The next morning, Elena wakes in her own bed, confused for a moment about how she got there. Then she remembers Damien insisting she get proper sleep, remembers him kissing her forehead and promising he'd be fine on the couch despite his injury. She finds him in Matteo's room, sitting on the floor, playing with blocks. Matteo is chattering about his tower, and Damien is listening with complete focus, occasionally offering a suggestion or praise. Mama! Matteo spots her and runs over. Daddy's building with me. Come see. Elena joins them on the floor, and the three of them build together, creating an elaborate castle complete with towers and a moat. It's such a simple moment, such an ordinary family activity, but it feels monumental. Later, after breakfast, they sit Matteo down for a conversation. Damien takes the lead, his voice gentle but clear. Matteo, your mama and I want to talk to you about something important. We want to try being a family together. That means I'll be around a lot more, and eventually, we might all live in the same house. Matteo processes this seriously. Like Jackson's family? Yes, like Jackson's family. Would you like that? Will we still have Mr. Elephant? Elena laughs. Of course we'll still have Mr. Elephant. He's part of the family too. Okay then. Matteo returns to his blocks, the matter settled in his mind with the beautiful simplicity of childhood. Over the following weeks, they build a new rhythm. Damien has business to handle, cleaning up the aftermath of the Volkov situation, but he's home every night for dinner. He reads to Matteo before bed, takes him to the park on weekends, shows up for every small milestone, and he courts Elena, properly this time. Flowers delivered to the safe house, long conversations over coffee after Matteo is asleep, slow dances in the kitchen to music only they can hear. He tells her about his childhood, about the father who raised him to be ruthless, about his struggle to be something different. She tells him about her years alone, about the fear and the loneliness and the fierce pride of making it on her own. They go to therapy, both together and individually. They have hard conversations about trust and control and what they each need to feel safe in a relationship. They fight sometimes, but they fight fair, and they always come back to each other. 3 months after that terrible night at the warehouse, Damien makes a proposal. Move back to the city with me. Not to the mansion, I sold that. But I bought a brownstone in Brooklyn, family-friendly neighborhood, good schools nearby. It has a yard for Matteo and an office for you if you want to start your own accounting practice. Elena tours the house and falls in love. It's beautiful, but not ostentatious. Comfortable, but not cold. It has a playroom for Matteo and a master suite that Damien makes clear is hers if she wants it. But there's also a guest room if she needs space. I want the master suite, she tells him, with you in it. The kiss he gives her is full of promise and hope and the kind of passion they'd lost somewhere along the way before. That night, after Matteo is asleep in his new bedroom, they make love for the first time in over 3 years. It's different than it was during their marriage, slower, more tender, full of vulnerability and trust. I love you, Damien whispers against her skin. I never stopped loving you. I love you too, Elena admits. Even when I tried not to, even when I thought I hated you, I loved you. 6 months after the DNA test that changed everything, Damien proposes properly. He takes her to the restaurant where they had their first date, the same table, the same wine. But instead of the cocky young man who'd charmed her 5 years ago, he's humbler now, more aware of how precious what they have is. I know I don't deserve a second chance, he says, the ring box open between them. I know I failed you before, shut you out, made you feel like a prisoner instead of a partner. But Elena, I swear to you, I'll spend the rest of my life being the husband you deserve, the father Matteo deserves, if you'll have me. The ring is different from her original engagement ring. That one had been huge, ostentatious, designed to impress. This one is elegant and simple, a single diamond that catches the light like a promise. Yes, she says, tears streaming down her face. Yes, I'll marry you again. I'll choose you again, every day. When they tell Matteo, he's ecstatic. Does this mean I get to be the ring bearer? Jackson was the ring bearer at his cousin's wedding. The wedding is small and intimate. Nothing like the society spectacle their first wedding had been. Just close friends and family in the garden of their Brooklyn brownstone, with Matteo indeed serving as ring bearer, taking his job very seriously as he walks down the makeshift aisle. Elena wears a simple white dress, no veil, no train, just her and the man she loves, and the promise to build something better this time. When Damien sees her, his eyes fill with tears. You're beautiful, he whispers as she reaches him. The most beautiful thing I've ever seen. You clean up pretty nice yourself. She touches his face. This man who's become her partner in every sense of the word. The vows they exchange are personal, written by them, full of promises to communicate and trust and choose each other through the hard times. When the officiant pronounces them husband and wife, Matteo cheers loudly, and everyone laughs. The celebration is joyful and relaxed. Damien's grandmother, who Elena had thought would judge her for leaving, pulls her aside. "I'm glad you came back," the older woman says. "Not for the family, not for appearances, but because you made my grandson remember how to be human again. After you left, he was a shell. Now he's alive." "He made himself alive," Elena corrects gently. "He did the work, made the changes. I just gave him a reason to try." 2 years after the wedding, Elena is 8 months pregnant with their second child. Matteo is 4 now, excited about becoming a big brother, though he insists the baby will have to share his room because he needs to protect them from monsters. Damien runs his businesses more ethically now, having slowly divested from anything questionable. He's become a philanthropist, funding programs for at-risk youth, trying to give kids the choices he never had. Elena runs her own accounting firm, specializing in helping small businesses. Work she finds fulfilling and challenging. They're not perfect. They still fight sometimes, still have moments of miscommunication. But they've learned how to repair, how to forgive, how to remember what they're fighting for. On a lazy Sunday morning, Elena sits in the garden watching Damien push Matteo on the swing set he installed last spring. Her hand rests on her belly, feeling their daughter kick. Everything about this moment feels right, feels earned. Damien catches her watching and walks over, leaving Matteo to pump his legs independently. "What are you thinking about?" he asks, settling beside her on the bench. "About how close we came to losing this, how one DNA test changed everything." "It didn't change everything. It just revealed what was already there, a family waiting to find each other again." He takes her hand, bringing it to his lips. "I'd do it all again, every moment of pain and fear, for this ending." "This isn't an ending," Elena corrects. "It's a beginning." "You're right," he kisses her, gentle and sweet. "It's our beginning, our second chance, our happily ever after." And watching Matteo play, feeling their daughter move, sitting beside the man who learned to be better, Elena believes it. They've been through darkness and come out the other side stronger. They've faced threats and survived. They've built something real and lasting from broken pieces. Their story isn't a fairy tale. It's messier than that, more complicated. But it's theirs, and it's enough. More than enough. It's everything. 5 years later, the house in the Hamptons is full of noise and laughter. Matteo, now 7, is chasing his sister Lucia through the waves, while Damien watches from the shore, ready to intervene if either gets too deep. Elena sits on a blanket, one hand on her swollen belly. Surprise, baby number 3 is due in 2 months, and the other holding the book she's pretending to read. Really, she's watching her family. Her husband, who's become the father she knew he could be. Her children, growing up safe and loved and blissfully unaware of the dark history that brought their parents together. Damien jogs back to the blanket, sand clinging to his wet feet, and collapses beside her with a groan. "I'm getting too old for this. You're 38, not 80. Tell that to my back." But he's grinning, happier than she's ever seen him. Matteo runs up, breathless and sun-pink. "Papa, Lucia says girls can be superheroes, but I said boys are stronger. Tell her I'm right." "Lucia is right," Damien says immediately. "Girls can be anything they want to be, including superheroes. And strength isn't just about muscles, buddy. It's about courage and heart." "Mama's the strongest person I know," Matteo declares. "She carried me and Lucia in her belly, and she's carrying the new baby. That's like superhero strength." Elena's heart swells. "Thank you, sweetheart." After the kids run off again, Damien pulls Elena against his side, careful of her belly. Have I told you today that I love you? Only 3 times. Unacceptable. I'm slacking. He kisses her temple. I love you, Elena Castellano. Thank you for giving me a second chance. Thank you for our family. Thank you for choosing me, every day. Always, she promises. The same promise she's made every day since they remarried. Every day, I choose you. And she means it, because love isn't just the butterflies and passion of new romance. It's this, choosing each other when things are hard, building a life together one day at a time, creating a family from the ruins of what came before. It's messy and complicated and absolutely perfect. Their happily ever after isn't an ending. It's a continuation, a daily commitment, a love that survives and thrives because they both work for it. And as Elena watches Damien run back into the waves with their children, their laughter carrying on the ocean breeze, she knows with absolute certainty that she made the right choice. All those years ago, a DNA test revealed a truth that changed everything. But the real truth, the one that matters most, is simpler than that. Love, real love, is worth fighting for, worth rebuilding for, worth every risk and every scar. And theirs, hard-won and battle-tested, will last forever. Thank you for watching this story. What did you think? Share your thoughts in the comments, and rate this story from 0 to 10. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to follow all our stories. Check out more emotional tales by clicking the end screen.